Okay, my name is Eric Ream, and I want to talk to you about nonverbal communication. And I learned the importance of influence back when I graduated from the United States Military Academy in 1995. With that, I've got three primary objectives that we're going to discuss today. The first is we're going to talk about situational awareness. Next, Denise, we're going to talk about how the world sees you. And then finally, we're going to talk about how to interpret body leaks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, body leaks are huge. Because if I spend any time with you, eventually your body is going to tell me everything I need to know. Now, with body leaks, there are three things we're going to talk about. The first one is I'll show you how you can detect someone's level of comfort when you're in a conversation with them. I'm also going to show you how you can detect someone's level of agreement when you're in conversation with them. And finally, I'm going to talk to you about how you can detect if there's a level of deception. Now, let's be honest, folks. There's always deception in every interaction. In fact, in a 10-minute conversation, the average human being will lie 3 times in the course of a 10-minute conversation. I want to give you some indicators of how you can detect those type of deception. When I was in law enforcement, there were 2 levels of deception that I was looking for in my conversations and when I was interviewing folks. The first one was I was looking and seeing whether or not someone was withholding information. They weren't telling me the entire story, Jay. The other thing is I'm looking to see if they're just outright falsifying information. So we'll talk about that. All right, let's talk about primary objective number 1, situational awareness. How many former Army folks we got in the house, former military? First thing we're taught, and my Army guys will nod their head, is we always kneel down, we take off our helmet, and we be quiet, and we just listen. We listen where the wind's coming from. What do we hear? What do we don't hear? What do we smell? What do we taste in the air? What we're doing, ladies and gentlemen, is we're trying to acclimate ourselves to the environment because we did our training and we did our preparation based on the map and based on what military intelligence was telling us. But once we get on the ground, it may be totally different than what we expected. And so we had to take the temperature of the environment so we knew how to make the adjustments. Well, guess what? You do the same thing in human dynamics and human interaction. So what I would encourage you to do when you go into a room, whether it be a social setting, and you're about to interact with your colleagues, take a temperature of the room. Try to get the mood of the room and start interpreting some of the things I'm going to teach you with nonverbal language. It's things like this that I will talk to you about, taking the mood of the room, getting the temperature of the room so you know what you're getting yourself into. The second thing is office setting. When you go into an office setting, all I'm looking for when I go into an office setting is I'm looking for levels of status. Because levels of status are going to allow me to pick the person I need to pick to read the temperature of the room. Like for instance, when you go into a room, I'm always looking for the leader first. The leader is usually someone who's central, okay? A lot of times the leaders are furthest away from the exit. Okay, this is just human dynamics. Okay, and the leader always have folks around him. So it's obvious in this case, this is just a simplified version. My leader is this gold or orange X here. The next person I'm looking for is the number 1 influencer. The number 1 influencer usually is closest to the leader and usually to the right, hence the term right-hand man. This is the person I want to cue in on and find next. Then as I go through the pecking order, I see the next influencer is the person that's also close to the leader but not as close and also to the person's left. And then the person that's always closest to the exit, these are the people that see themselves on a lower status because they always want to be close to the exits. That way when it gets hot, they can get the heck out of Dodge. Now, who's the person I'm most intrigued with when I go in a situation like this? Is person number 2. I'm always looking for the number 1 influencer because that person is always going to give me a telltale sign of really what's going on. Because that's the person that's connected with the leader, has the closest relationship with the leader. So I want to know who that person is, and I start reading that person's nonverbal cues first. All right, now when we talk about team negotiations, now the power of negotiations and how important it was to understand where people sat at a chair. What they brought with them, what they were wearing, their mood, those type of things. So I know a lot of you in the room here go into negotiations. So this is just simple. The first thing you want to do is obviously know where the negotiator is, and then you start looking at who he brings or she brings with her to the table. So again, always the person to the right usually is the person that is closest to the negotiator. This person, most likely than not, in negotiations based on human dynamics, Cheryl, will be congenial and easy to get along with most of the time. Okay? The person to the left is also an influencer, but this is the person you can expect in most negotiations based on human dynamics. This is the person that's going to be making sure everything, they're a stickler, making sure that you stick to the rules, you stick to the agenda. They know what the action items are. They're going to keep the stuff going at a fast pace. They're not going to be rude, but they're also going to be very professional and keep things moving forward. Now, the folks on the extremes are the ones you got to watch out for, but they're not as important to you on the big scheme of things. The person to the furthest right usually will be the bad cop, and that's the person that's going to be your devil's advocate. We've seen this in sales, haven't we, Robbie? Where whatever you bring up, that person has something negative to say about everything. Don't worry about it. And the reason why it's on the far right, because it's a negotiator's way of doing the right hook on you, to kind of keep you on your toes, okay? And then the other person on the furthest, on the left, is usually a specialist, maybe a finance person, a legal person. But if you're a savvy negotiator, Barry, and I would recommend every one of you now, after you hear this talk, is bring someone to the table that is trained with nonverbal communication and set them to the far left and have them interpret the nonverbal. So when you're in negotiations, they can send you notes, they can send you texts, they can let you know, hey, this is what I'm picking up. This is how the meeting's going. This is what they're saying based on their nonverbal communication. But right now, let me tell you 5 body languages mistakes that you are making right now you want to avoid at all costs. All right, you ready for this? The first one is the knuckle-crushing handshake. Next one is folded arms. This is the number one most common mistakes that we make as human beings. What's you always see in a business picture? They're always doing this. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a signal when you're talking to someone, whether you intend it or not, their body is subconsciously reading it that you are closed off. You are body blocking them. You are closed off. And here's the other thing you need to understand. Your body and mind cannot be disconnected. Whatever you do with your body, your mind will become aligned with that. The next one is hands on hips. Whenever you talk to someone in a setting and you put your hands on your hips, that is a signal of aggression. The next one is shifty eyes. This happened last night, I'm sure, to some of you. You're talking to a person and all they can do is look around the room at everybody else but you, right? That's a sign of huge disrespect when you do that to people, okay? And the final is check your phone. There is nobody in this room that is so important that you have to check your phone every 5 seconds, especially when you're talking to someone one-on-one. Let's talk about body leaks. Body leaks are beautiful. You guys, you're going to have fun with this one, okay? Because this is how you talk to somebody about, and that's how you determine if someone is has some authenticity when they're talking with you, okay? Now, here's the thing. When you're interpreting body language, remember this. Don't ever try to interpret the meaning based off one gesture. That's a huge novice mistake. That's the equivalent of reading one word in a sentence and thinking you know the entire context of the sentence. What I would challenge you is start to look at clusters of body language to try to develop the entire story as you're weaving this conversation with this person. Now, there are actually 5 channels that we look at. I'm only going to talk about 3 today. One is eyes. We're going to talk about the eyes. We're going to talk about the arms. And we're going to discuss the hands. Let's talk about the eyes. What do you look for? One of the easiest things to look for is blinking. If you notice someone's blinking more than they should, that's a big indicator this person is nervous. Now, the next thing is eye shift. I don't know about you, but my mom always told me she could tell me if I was lying based on whether or not I looked her in the eye when I answered the question. That's only partly true. What I looked at doing when I was an interrogator and investigator, what I would do is I would ask a question, and most of the time, 9 times out of 10, before a person answers a question, they will break eye contact. That's when I look and see what happens with their eyes. If a person looks to their left before they answer the question, that means that they are going to the left side of their brain, okay? This is the part where it's facts, it's figures, it's analytical. Most of the time, that means that person is probably telling me the truth most of the time. Now again, I don't pick that one gesture. I look at other gestures with that. But just as a general rule of thumb, when a person looks to their left before they answer, that's a good indicator that they're trying to tell the truth or they're telling the truth. If they look to the right, that's the creative side of the brain. That means they are creating an answer and they may be deceptive at this point. If a person looks down before they answer, they are pulling from an emotional state, okay? They are unsure with what they're about to answer. They are unsure about what they're about to say to you. If a person looks up before they answer a question, this is a person that feels superior over you. This is a person that's very confident about the answer they're about to deliver. Let's talk about the arms. The arms is all about protecting The heart. The heart is the most vital organ in your body, and you want to protect this at all costs. So when you disagree with something, the first thing you do is you cross your arms. This is called a body block. The most acceptable form of a body block, if you see somebody do this, is if I have one hand above my bicep and one hand below my bicep. This could mean they're just cold. This could mean that they may be trying to be comfortable. But be aware, you don't want them to be here for very long, because eventually they will become closed off at you. But if they have both hands under their bicep, that is a true body block. That means they disagree with something you're saying. If they have their hands in a fist, that they are not only disagree about it, but they're angry about it. There's tension. Okay? Now, there's what we call a partial body block. If you ever see anybody like this, with their fingers interlaced, this is a person that is blocking you to some degree. If they put their palm over their hand, that's more of a body block. They don't totally agree with what you're discussing. And if they put their arm up, the higher their hand goes up their arm, the more of a disagreement they have with you. This means that I'm very confident and I'm very open. I'm exposing my heart to you now. I'm open right now. And I'm very confident about what we're talking about. But there's a subtle thing you have to watch, and that's the back. If I bring my arm up like this as I'm talking, this is not good. This means I'm open to you, but I'm also starting to get upset or disagreeing with you, especially if I do this or this. That means I'm literally trying to hold myself from coming around and swinging at you. I'm very confident that I'm disagreeing with you at this point. So you have to really take that with a grain of salt. You think someone's open, but behind their back, they may be climbing up their arm. That means that they're secretly disagreeing with you, even though they're trying to portray that they're open with you. Okay? Now, let's talk about the hands. I love the hands because the hands are the most devious parts of your body. They will tell me everything I need to know about you. They will get you in trouble 9 times out of 10. And there's a lot, so we're going to roll through this. Now, normally I would do a demonstration. I just don't have the time to do it. So there are 6 things I normally look for. I'm going to show you 3. When you shake a hand with someone, notice how they grab your hand. If they come in like this with their palm down, that is a person that plans to dominate the conversation. Be prepared. Okay? And this also means this person is going to be closed to your opinion. So I don't know what the situation is, but just know when someone comes in with their palm down, that's a signal they're sending you. Now, Robbie, if you're trying to do a sales call with someone and they come in with their hands up, that's a very positive sales signal. That means that this person is submitting to you and they're open to your ideas. That's going to be a good conversation. Now, if you come in like this with a neutral, that means that this person sees you on equal setting and you're going to have a good give and take. Just for you as business people, always come in with a neutral. That is the best way to shake someone's hand. All right? Now, a couple other things to look for. Anytime, just remember this. Anytime when someone's talking to you, if they bring their hand up to their face at any time, huge red flag, big time. When someone does that, ding, 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 something should be going off in your mind, and now you start interpreting what they're talking about. So if someone brings their hand in front of their mouth like this, that is a person that's withholding information. That's a person that's trying to filter what they're saying to you. If they use their left hand, it's almost always a lie when someone uses their left hand, okay? If someone puts their finger in their mouth for any reason, a pen, or they take their glasses off and they put it in their mouth, that is a person that's insecure and unsure with what they're talking about. If someone rubs their eyes like this while you're talking, that's a person that's telling you they don't see eye to eye with you right now. Okay? They disagree with you. If a person does that while they're talking, they're probably being deceptive. They don't see eye to eye with you. In fact, they're telling you something maybe you want to hear, but they don't really believe it. Okay? If someone rubs their ear, okay, that means that that's a lack of understanding. They are literally telling you they don't hear you, okay? They don't understand you. And if they rub their ear while they're talking to you, also that's deceptive. Rubbing your hand behind your neck, that's a signal of frustration. Putting your finger near your lips like this, not a hand, but a finger like this, but they'll do something like this, and they'll do like that. That means that they want you to stop talking. They want to make a point. So stop talking if you see that. If you see someone that's got their hand in their jaw like this or like this, and this individual had that, and he literally put his hand down right when I said that. But if you had your hand in your jaw like this is a person that disagrees with you. They might be angry with you. And this is a person that's literally trying to keep their mouth shut because they don't want to say what they really want to say. Okay? So I apologize, sir, whatever I've done to... if you see someone with their finger up like this and they're listening to you, this is a huge, huge indicator that this person is listening critically to what you're saying. They are listening, they are dialed in to what you're saying. Rubbing your chin, this is a person that's making a decision. So this is good. If you're trying to get this person to make a decision, they start to rub their chin, know that a decision is about to be made. If they put their hands behind their head like this, if this is a one-on-one conversation, this is a huge red flag because this person sees that they are very superior over you. They see you in a negative light. This is not a good signal. In a group setting, it's a little different. When someone puts their hands behind their head and maybe leans back, that's a person that's confident and they feel superior. Prayer. If someone's talking or listening to you and they put their hands like this, they are very confident with what you're saying. But if they interlock, okay, this is a level of disagreement. Not always. It could be a level of comfort. There's some people in here that are doing this. That doesn't necessarily mean you disagree with what I'm saying. All it means is that this is something that could be an indicator. And if it starts down here, this is less of a disagreement than up here, okay? Closed fist always means tension. What to look for as far as palms up. Palms up is a signal of openness. So Tony, if you're talking to somebody and you said, did you do that? And he goes, no, Tony, I don't know what you're talking about. That's a positive signal. They're being very open to you. But if they put their palms down, that's a signal of closeness. So Robbie, if you go in, or Ed, if you go into your boss's office, he called you in and he's talking to you and he's sitting behind his desk or she's sitting behind her desk and she has her hands down and she's talking to you on the desk, not a good signal, Ed. You've done something wrong. This is a one-way conversation, okay? It could be negative. Anytime someone has their hands in their lap when they're talking, like Barry has right now, that's a signal of trustworthiness. Okay, that's someone that you can trust. Okay, so that's a signal of that. Wrapped around your knee, if you're sitting and you're wrapped around your knee, this is a person that's defensive. Whatever you're about to talk to them about, they're going to be defensive about the situation. If you sit on your hands or put your hands in the pocket, this is a person that subconsciously literally is trying to keep their hands under control because they know they're going to get in trouble and they're withholding information, so they sit on their hands. They don't know they're doing it, but they're doing it. So when I see that, I know there's more I need to dig into. Rubbing the hands together means I'm finished. So if you're talking to somebody in the midst of a conversation, they start rubbing their hands, stop, move on, because they are done with that topic, okay? Hands on the hip, I told, was confidence. And then anytime you fidget with anything, a pen, someone's fidgeting with a brochure or whatever, that's a person that's either lack of interest or not interested in what you're talking about, or they're just nervous. Okay, I would be remiss if I just didn't touch on this, is that demographics are very important. Sex of the person is very important. Women are connectors. They use nonverbal language, Cheryl, to show that they're relating with you. Men, on the other hand, are competitors, okay? We show nonverbal to show power and dominance, okay? We see winners and losers, ones and zeros, black and white. That's how we view the world. Why this is important. Cheryl, if you and I are in a conversation and I'm talking to you about something and you start nodding your head, you're not in your head because you understand what I'm saying. Now, Barry, if you and I are in the same conversation and you're not in your head, more than likely you're not in the head because you agree with me. I may walk away from the conversation with Cheryl, Tony, thinking that her and I have an agreement, but she may have disagreed with me. All she was doing was telling me that she understands me. That's the difference between men and women. There's so many nuances to that. Okay? Culturally is also different. Like someone from the United Kingdom is less animated than someone from Latin America. Someone from the United Kingdom needs more personal space than someone from Latin America. You know who needs the most space in the entire world? Americans. Public space is between 2 to 4 feet. Intimate space is 1 to 1.5 feet. And Americans, we need our space. But someone from Saudi Arabia, it's very acceptable for 2 men to hold hands. That's a sign of respect. Okay? It's also a sign of respect for them to kiss each other on the cheek. So you have to take that into account when you do nonverbal. Where you come from. If you're from the country, if you're from a rural environment, you need more space than someone that comes from the city. You need to understand these as you're talking to somebody, their background, their demographic, that their nonverbals could be a little different based on that background. So I've only got a few minutes left, so we're going to burn through this last piece. What do you do if you pick up negative body signals? There are 3 things I suggest. Number 1, ask a question. I always did this. If I saw a negative situation, I would say, is there something that we need to discuss or anything that's bothering you? And they would give me the objective, all right, their objection. Ladies and gentlemen, human dynamics tells me, based on law enforcement, the first objection is never the real one. Never. It's always a second or third one. So I watch the body language, and then I always ask this question. Besides that, is there anything else? I listen to it, and I see if their body's aligned with the answer, and then I move on. Once I get that, then I clear the objection, and we move on. The second thing you can do is use positive body signals, which we talked about, to elevate it. Smile, use open gestures, things like that, to elevate the conversation. And the third and final thing is you could defer. You may have set this meeting 2 months ago, 3 weeks ago, and things have changed. 5 minutes before I come in to see Barry, he may have got a disturbing call from home. And I can see that Barry's distracted in our conversation. And it's very okay and very professional for me to say to Barry, Barry's this now not a good time? Should we reschedule this? And he may be relieved that I do that. And you save the conversation, you save the topic, because a nonverbal is telling you that Barry's just not dialed in. It's time to defer. It's all about working with people. It's all about encouraging and uplifting and being influencers. And so with that, there are 3 things I would encourage you to remember. Number 1, remember that you always want to assess the room when you walk into it. Number 2, watch your body language, because I guarantee it, there's some things that you're signaling to people that maybe you did not understand that you were. The third thing is watch for body leaks. Some of the things I taught you, you can go to my website, you can get some more information on that. And the 3.5 takeaways, the first one is the handshake is the best way to interpret how a meeting's about to happen. Okay? The second thing is anytime you see hands around the face, huge red flag when someone's talking to you. Crossed arms, avoid that at all costs. And then finally, the universal language that everybody understands is the smile. It's universally accepted. Never forget to smile. And sometimes I say to Pat, are you enjoying yourself? And they say, yeah. And I say, you might want to notify your face. Because we scowl. We forget that. Don't ever forget to smile. That will always uplift the room.